Hey everyone, it's Cinnamon Coney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint this gorgeous fiery sunset on the beach. I really like this reference photo because it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of texture and a lot of different elements. That's not me. I'm super muted. we just heard me in the background, so we're like, are we live? Yes, we are, because I'm hearing myself in the background.
Sorry
it's
about
really
that.
weird. It's not showing the live in the event. Yeah. I don't even know. Okay.
Well, I see everyone here on Facebook.
So if you were
Hello.
looking for this in the event, I don't know what happened. The stream didn't catch it from the event, but I do see another live happening on Facebook just in the feed. If you're on YouTube, I'm so glad to have you guys here. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to show you step by step how to do this painting. I'm going to explain every technique and every color mix and every process so that I'll do something and you do something, I'll do something, you'll do something, you'll end up with a ocean sunset at the end of the project. I break these down into steps so that on the rewatch, you can go back and find your place again. On YouTube, those are time-stamped, and this eventually matches the mini book that we write after the show. If you need, sometimes we find that two different types of learning are really helpful, and that the written down instructions with the pictures and the materials per step and the timestamps and the video together create a wonderful foundation for success. But if you're here for the live, I'm so excited. I really don't think there's anything to do, John, but jump in.
All right.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm going to divide my 9 by 12 canvas in half. I don't have paint out yet because I'm going to be doing the background in stages. I have the complete paint list in the description. I don't actually expect to be using Naples yellow. It's just color that I use consistently during the year, so I'll probably be updating that as we go. I'm going to take a tool called the T-square, and I'm going to measure the canvas in half. Now, from the top to the bottom here, it is 4.5 inches is its halfway point. And I'm going to make a line across at the 4.5 inch mark. This is a simplified grid. We're just bisecting the canvas in half, vertically and horizontally. I'm going to come to the 6-inch pot, and then I'm going to again divide the surface in half. I'm using a gray watercolor pencil because it will disappear into the painting as we go, which I always think is fantastic. How is everybody doing today?
Really good, except I have
excellent.
a phantom device that's going boot in the background that I have to hunt down.
All right. Well, when you get a chance, throw up a step 1, and after this grid, I'm going to put in the rocks. But you want to do a divide half and half. Now, if you don't want to draw, and it's not your favorite, that's okay, because I made a traceable of this particular image that you can transfer onto the surface. But because of the way this landscape is actually fairly simplified lines and objects, if this is one that you kind of wanted to go like on your own, it might be a good way to do that. I'm going to use a brown pencil to mark out my lines and everything. And I'm going to come just a little bit above my halfway mark line, and I'm going to set my horizon line with the brown here. Everything above this is going to be sky. You know, it's just a little bit above that. So everything above this will be these wonderful clouds. Then over here from the corner, I'm going to kind of put in this rock shape. So we know that we have this really wonderful little rock that's coming up at a great angle. It has been hewn by the sea. And you got to love rocks that are hewn by the sea. So we're drawing those little hard edges. I'm giving myself just a sense of knowing where the rock shapes and forms are so that when I go to paint it in, it looks really, really good. You can see that it's really a simplified perspective. I like to make a little bit of the top of rock, and then this here, like these are the sides of the rock. When you start putting in the value changes, it really will help you see all the forms and shapes as they go. I very much enjoy this type of rockness. It's so rocky. We have that wonderful little big set of rocks right there. And it takes up a nice bit of space between our horizon and the shore. Let's put another big focal rock right here coming sort of in off the shore. And we can also add, some other little stone beach rocks that might be gathering our attention. You don't have to put in every rock that you see. You want to put in rocks that might be interesting and add to the design balance of the overall art. And I usually look at that kind of like if they're too bunched together, if they're too evenly placed, that'll create a visual dissonance in the painting. And by arranging them, sometimes even a little better than nature, what you can do is you can create nice shapes and forms that make your painting extra special. I'm going to come over here from the left-hand side, and I'm going to kind of paint in this initial wave. The wave really comes in to this part of the rock. And we know there's another little bit of wave that wraps around it. And then, of course, we have a bit of the wave coming up the shore here. We have a little bit of a curl that happens out here. And those are always fun to do, but we'll get those in when we start painting it in, because we'll sort of lay that in with paint using value. Waves are sort of one of those things that once you understand, they're deep at the foot and they get lighter as they curl up and they get frothy as they bend over, and really you're kind of painting a wall tube. You'll be like, oh, I got it. And if you want to know more about painting waves or water, I have an entire course that we did that for a month every day. So it really builds up these concepts. You'll be like, oh, I can crash any wave I want, paint any rocky rocks I want. Let's call this step 2 and we'll get a picture.
Okay. Let's see here. I have to. You unexpectedly got me there, so I have to take down. Then we go.
It's okay.
Step 2.
It's been a bit of a morning. Sometimes I appreciate being here for the painting as much as you guys do. I definitely am needing the painting today. Oh, the technology can be so overwhelming when you try to get it working. I don't know if you have that experience with your Facebook or your technology when it doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do. And you know what? It cannot be emotionally reasoned with, nor does it care about your feelings in relationship to its failures. Not even a little bit. I'm going to see what's going on over here if I can, if it will allow me over here in the Art Sherpa. Hopefully the people in the event are finding the live. I think everyone is. Yeah. It's Kath Edison says, is it watercolor or acrylic today? So listen, if you paint with me and you like this painting for free thing, I like it. Can I have my round table back?
Oh, yes.
You take it with you. If you like this painting for free thing and you like watercolor, you like acrylic, and you want to know what's coming up, what I did was, it was super strange. Need my table back. So if you want to know about what's coming up, I have scheduled the acrylic classes through 9/22 of this year. And if you go to our calendar on the website, theartsherpa.com, you can search that by month. You can also find that schedule on your subscription feed on YouTube. And I have some events here that you can see out ahead, but they only let me put those out like a week or so ahead. I've done the same thing on the watercolor channel where I'm scheduling out ahead. And what we're doing is we're doing some different days, and that gives people what I'm finding is that you guys need different days to be able to attend events. And so we're trying to vary that up so everybody gets a chance. It also gives you more classes in both mediums per month that are free. It takes you guys from like about 4 to 6 classes to 6 to 10 classes, which is a significant improvement. So if you check the calendar on theartsherpa.com and search by month, you can get a sense of what's coming up through September. And by the way, I have plans for fall. So you do want to hit the subscribe and follow button because these classes are free and they're going to be coming regularly to you every couple of days. And they're going to be amazing. And you can just learn how to paint at home. And who doesn't want to do that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to start to paint my sky. My sky is my favorite. Let's put out some colors that we know we're going to be using in our sky.
I must say thank you to Angela, who sent some wonderful stars over on Facebook.
Oh, Oh, thank you for the stars, Angela. I really appreciate that. I see Gomez Amanda coming in to say hi, and I know we've got a lot of our good friends happening over on YouTube saying hi as well. I appreciate everybody coming in today to paint. Doesn't everyone? I'm telling you what, I find that I'm needing my art more than usual. I'm going to go over these colors as soon as I put them out and explain why as we paint. Why has them? You know, because I have them, and you might be like, why do you have those colors?
Lots of birthday wishes for you.
It is my birthday tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I am taking the day off, which is why your schedule had a little bit of a hole in it. Because I was like, I need to take my birthday off.
Mm-hmm.
Super happy to work every day is my favorite. But I did have to take my birthday off because I was like, work-life balance. Got to have some of it. So I'll go over the colors. I'm using pretty traditional sunset colors that you might really enjoy. I'm not going to use the Naples yellow, though I could in the space. It would give me some fun effects. But since so many people are interested in this painting, I'll use a simplified palette. Phthalo blue, cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow, dioxazine purple, quinacridone magenta, and titanium white. These are basic sunset colors. You'll use them most. And the first thing that we'll want to do in a sunset like this is to create kind of the ombre of the sky. Now, this ombre can be a little bit challenging because in the middle range, whenever you're going from anything that's in the yellows, the peaches, the oranges, to the blues, you'll have a range that can kind of feel green. But what I like about this reference is there's a big block of clouds in the middle. So even if you have that problem, you're going to be able to correct for it. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take an oval mop. I'm going to get it slightly damp. This is a synthetic oval mop. And I'll go ahead and kind of remove that middle line there because I want that to disappear. I don't mind getting this a little bit wet. Just damp. Will help me kind of blend out. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the down low color. And I want it to be light, so if I go into my white first and I load up, and what I'm doing is I'm controlling the amount of water on my mop and making sure I get a good load. I'm going to come across white across the top of the horizon line. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to go ahead and get just a smidge of my blue. And bring it in a little stronger as I go up. I've got this really strong stripe, which I don't want. And how I'm going to get rid of it is I'm going to take a second clean brush. You can use any second clean brush you have that's soft. And I'm going to brush back and forth right here and give myself a nice soft transition.
Oh, yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll see people doing like the little circular motions in the little fast videos that are time-lapsed. That actually is harder to do than you think. I always cringe when I see it because I'm like, oh, people have a harder time with that. I mean, you have to spend some time in your little circle blends to get that to work. And generally, you change out brushes and do a lot of rinse outs. But with this, we give ourselves this start, and you'll notice that we have
like a power circle blender?
Power circle blender.
Like maybe get like a drill and put I don't know.
But this is a little trick on how not to get green sky. So if I take it right here, right where it is, I don't have any green sky. Now I can come in and load up a little bit of my white again. And let's grab some of our pink and our yellow, our magenta and our yellow, and get kind of this peachy color, right? Everything is still wet here. Now I can come across the bottom, the base, with that. And as I blend into the blue, as long as I don't go back down, what I don't have is a green band. Hard to do if you don't know how to get there, but once you see it, you'll never be thwarted by this particular type of sunset. Again, you'll be like, oh, this layer you've got to get in before you do any of the next layers, and you do want it dry before you put on the next layer of sky. The sky is easier to do than you think. Once you see it demonstrated and you see it broken down, you're going to be like, yeah, I got it. I super got it. So let's call this a step, dry the canvas, and come back, and I'll show you the next part of sky.
Okay. Oh, I muted you. You can't. Sorry. It's through the button. Oh. Try it again. There it goes. I had to reset the push the button thing on the bottom of the, the hairdryer thing. That's the heat maker thing that you're not supposed to use heat on. That's the thing that we're not supposed to do. And so when she comes back, we'll put up a step and then go from there with the next step, which I know what it is. She doesn't know what the step is because I can see the step number, but we agreed not to talk about steps so that we don't verbally misstep the step. No, I was just telling them
yeah, if
that
I say step number, I will miscount and we will throw off everybody.
So we don't talk about the steps in Step Club.
Yeah, never talk about the steps in Step Club. So check the timestamps. The timestamps are always correct. We like double check and check those because, I'm an artist, so things can get a little weird there. In the step numbers. What are you guys doing today? I think I need to take a deep breath. Do you need to take a deep breath? It does spin way too fast. It's way more than you want. Gomez Amanda says, is this a 3-hoot? I'm immensely intimidated by a lineup of owls. So when you see those terminologies, 3-hoot, what I want you to think of it is that it's probably going to be over 2 hours, that there will be, probably more than 7 steps in it. We're going to probably have many layers in the steps, that there might be more techniques in it. I will always break it all down. And if you haven't done a 3-hoot and you want to do a 3-hoot, then I would wait for the mini book to come out because between the timestamps, the steps, and the mini book, you can get through anything. You just have to know what's going on, right? If you've got a blend technique, you're ready for it. If you're still working on your blend technique, that would be the thing to get to here, if that makes a little bit of sense. And always remember those hoots are a guide, and basically the feedback from the community is the higher I rate it, the easier they find it to be. And then when I rate it like a 1 hoot, they're like, that's the hardest painting you've ever taught. So there's definitely a journey with that. I have a new hog bristle round to test. Look at this. I have a number 8 Raphael Paris Classic. So this is a hog brush. I know you guys see me use this one, the Silverstone, a lot. This one is a little big for this canvas, so I've got this one. Hopefully I like it because I'm testing it right now. What do you think of that? I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet. Whenever I'm using hog, the issue is that it can get overly damp. I want to take a towel and wipe out the extra water always. And, do I like that right there? I might want to do another layer of smoothing because I feel like this is streaky. Go back to the mop. I changed brushes. Look at me being tricky with you. Let's
You
get
want
to the mop.
another layer of sky? Now
I feel like I want another layer just to create a smooth, and I want a rich sky that's luminous.
This actually brings up a good underpainting of sky question.
Yeah.
So is it okay to do multiple layers of sky, or will you lose out?
No, it's really okay. I like it very much. I think it's very helpful to do multiple layers. I think that building up is great in your painting, especially with acrylics. We don't have the blendability that oil has. So this is one of the things that as acrylic artists we have. I'm coming up with a stronger blue. And you can see that's such a richer color, isn't it? Up here at the top already.
That way they can see the difference in the loads.
I'm just trying to make sure that this is just a little bit richer up at the top because it just will make me happy. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush and I'm going to definitely get more of a white and blue load on that to get that turquoise. I may even at this stage make it a little more turquoise, not take it to the green. I'm not going to go green, guys. I'm going to keep it blue, but I just want right here a bit of this. I'm brushing back and forth. My pressure is light. I'm not pushing down hard on the canvas. And that's going to allow the paint to blend wet into wet. So that kind of glow that you want to capture is happening here. You guys see the glow? There we go. Got a little glow going, and we want it. If I want to blend out, I can go back and I've rinsed this and dried this so I could take this to blend it again. And it's going to give me a nice blend between those two zones. The way the sky light tends to want to blend in is not nice. So nice. Rinse that out, dry that out again. So it's there for you when you need it. Now I'm going to get into my hog. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play in this lower area of the canvas, and I'm going to get my yellow and my pink together, my magenta, and create this kind of warm peach. I'm going to come right here at this left side and strengthen that up. I don't need to go up too much into the blue, and the reason that I don't is we have that big cloud bank. Now, right here, I might want to get a little more white and yellow as I'm coming in here and lighten that up. Coming across, I'm going to get a little more into my magenta. If I need to get a little water on my hog, I will, but I always wipe off on my towel. The towel is your friend, like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You got to have your towel so that you can travel the artverse. Now, what I've done here is I've got a nice peach to pink ombre. And then where I want to go into my purple, I will go quinacridone into the purple and some white. If I need to get a little more water. And when I say a little more water, guys, look how I barely touch my brush to the water. And then I still wipe off. It is controlling the water.
Ooh, that purple.
Just brush this across lightly. There we go. We've got this. Just over the top. Brushing back and forth. I'm not pressing hard.
I may have startled a couple of folks when I had closed the microwave door because it made a loud thump. So if
thank you, Colleen, for my birthday stars.
Thank you.
You startled everybody with the microwave?
I think when it went thump,
well,
I thumped it.
Microwaves happen. We're okay here, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a little bit of a yellow, and I'm going to come here and lightly dry brush above this area. Now, I know I've got cloud banks, but I want some kind of little yellow peeking out there. See how the sky is very involved? It's a really thought out painting, isn't it? The sky. Maybe a little yellow over here. You know, you would never be bothered by using this many colors and layers in a floral because you expect flowers to be like this. But sometimes we don't expect skies to be like this. And we get a little flustered when the sky is this busy and involved. But actually, it's no different than painting a floral. I'm going to take a little of my blue here and a smidge of my purple. And together they make almost an indigo. They make a deeper blue. Right? I'm going to come up here and I'm going to just, these are little circular brush strokes. And I'm barely touching the canvas and I'm making little light coming in deep shadow cloud forms. Where I need to wipe out my brush, I will do that. And look, you guys have talked a lot about that your hog brushes go floofy. If they're not really interlocked or interlaced, they can do that. This one is not that interlaced, but I'm still making it work. Sometimes I like to show you guys different stuff so you guys realize that, yeah, the brushes I use do make my time easier for sure. But I've never used this brush before. And I'm finding it. So I found a little point on it that gives me a little bit of control, and I'm loving it. Look at the weird little clouds that I can get. I'm not stopped. I'm not harmed. I'm just making little motions. Regular little cloud bits. That's the business right there. You gotta make regular little cloud bits. Kind of a circular and C stroke gets me there. We know that we want a darker kind of coming in cloud. These are clouds in shadow. Not uncommon in skies like this time of day. So if you want a sky that really reflects that, you've got to kind of paint it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's call that a layer. I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to put in the big wow factor.
Okay. And while she's drying that, we're going to call it a step, she says. Stepped in the waves. I think that's the right step. Step loaded. We're going to go into the steps, and then I'll take a picture of the step in just a moment.
Okay. Hi, Rebecca Smith Hoffman. I see you. How's everybody in this part of the painting? It is a good sunset. And you're going to walk away knowing more about sunsets because you have something beautiful for your wall. I saw this picture and was like, oh, man, I really want to paint that because it was just lovely and I wanted to paint it. Sometimes you see something and you're like, that's pretty. I think I'd like to paint that. This is going on my wall. And this is one of those where it just invites you in to paint it. The sunset, all of it is very... There was a photograph taken in Texas recently. It's just the sky was just like, what? So pretty. Actually, while the picture itself is quite lovely and healing, I'm sure the weather itself was not, because to create those clouds is not happy, calm weather.
Mm-hmm.
I see Carmen Simmons shouting us out from Michigan, and Rebecca saying hi from Kentucky. Now, let's get one of my favorite brushes, and this is a brush. Okay, I think you can do techniques with any brush. You're never stuck. But if you can, I do recommend getting a number 12 round blender by Princeton. It does a really good job of what I'm about to demonstrate here. This sort of soft, effective little cloud form. So first, I'm going to get a little of my Dioxazine purple and my quinacridone magenta again, and some white. And I'm going to make a nice light little lavendery cloud, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
This brush is definitely one I also control my water in. I sound like I'm living on Dune, don't I? But here we go. Let's paint these little things. Notice the way I curl this stroke, and I'm not doing little circles. They're not little definitive circles, but the strokes have a bit of a light touch and a curl to them to help me randomize. Sometimes I might get a little more white into it. That's okay. Clouds come in values. And if you need to take them down a little bit past your horizon line, this particular horizon line is a little rougher than most because we're really in the break of the waves on this one.
Mm.
And come through here, and you see just making little distant clouds going over the horizon. A drop of water, just barely any. Just enough to help the paint flow. Just enough to make the bank seem far away. And you can come in and easily blend. See, this particular brush will let you make very soft clouds. I'm going to just brush in a little bit of this light color here. Because that's nice. I'm going to rinse out. And I'm going to dry off with my towel. Now, coming up here, we do have a bit more of almost the blue and purple as the base of the cloud. It is purple, but it has a little more of the blue in it. So we're going to take this here and start to build that up. If I need a little more water, I'm going to get it. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to just work through the process. It is not a series of perfect little brush strokes that builds a painting. It is a series of substantive brush strokes. In other words, you're building up value, you're building up layers. You may not do every brush stroke perfectly, but cumulatively, it begins to tell a story of a painting. Notice how I'm looking for really weird rough edges here. Little bits that fly up. You can do this. Now I'm brushing back and forth, and that brush has a bit of a curl. That's the sweep up of the cloud
Mm-hmm.
that we're talking about, where the updraft of the air. And that's nice to do. That's something I like to do in my clouds, is talk about the updraft. Because updraft happens.
Yep.
I'm going to take a little of my purple and magenta, maybe up here a bit. I love doing this combo against the blue. It just always excites me. Now I'm going to brush that down. Notice that I'm following that cloud form. Can you guys see how that color, how it pops against the blue?
Mm-hmm.
And the aqua, it's very exciting to me, visually.
I think it's very pretty.
Maybe a little more purple and magenta here. Kind of building the downward base that we're more magenta and maybe some white. Curl that up because there's a bit of an updraft there as well. Kind of fun. So we're just building up the structure of those clouds. I'm going to rinse out. Now I know I've got some interesting glow here. And I've got some layering that I will have to contend with. I'm going to add a little bit of a light layer here at this upper edge while everything is still wet. Whenever you see a sunset like this from now on, you'll be building it in your head. Can't help it, it always happens. Adding a little bit of light value. Just I think about these clouds in the way that you would think about anything. I'm just shading and finding the light and form and color. A lot more white on here. Magenta and purple. You know, if I need to pick up some water off the palette, I will. Build up those layers. Find the little highlights. You want to leave shadows. It's important to leave shadows in your clouds.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, it helps keep the form of them. Just adding a highlight to the top of these, you know. Maybe a little bit of updraft. Can you see how that layer went in there?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little more magenta now. Pick up a little bit of highlight in that. I'm on the toe of my brush. That's just the very tip. Finding those little elements, building up those little clouds. Rinse out. When my brush gets too big, I can switch to a smaller one. Like this is just a small hog brush that I can come in. That's tiny, tiny, tiny. I can come in and just add a little white and yellow and magenta with it. Look, right here I can. Find those little shapes at the tops of the cloud. Come here and just fade the top. a smaller brush, right? But it's still making those irregular little shapes. And the top of that. You have to put out a little white soon. And if you feel like you lose anything, you just come right back in to whatever your shadow color was, right? So if you want to come back in here and that, we can shade between those two. You're never at a place where you're just stuck or lost. You may be in progress. You may be in journey.
I'm always in progress.
We're always in journey. Look at that. We're going to just bring this down. So we're just building that up. Telling that story in layers. If I need more white, I'll put out more white. I'm going to use probably the most white. I've got to get my wet palette set again, which is why my paint is drying out on me. But until then, I'll mist my paint to slow that. And also, it's another way for me also to get some water, but still have water control. Look at that. We're just using that little brush. This is a number 4. I can't even, it's a Raphael Hog. I can't even, like literally the print on the brush is too tiny to see the brand, the line within it. But what I want to tell you is that it's just a soft kind of fluffy brush that's smaller. It doesn't have to be this brush. Could be this brush. Soft fluffy brush is helpful. Come up here and like think about these little bits. Think about the little bit. I'm just working the value, making sure I keep shadows and highlights involved. Easy enough to go deeper when necessary.
Those clouds are really amazing. The layers of them.
There's many layers. Many layers. Now over here we have a pop of red, but I think I'm going to break up this layer from the next so it's not such a deep right on the step. You're not taking in as much. We'll take a picture, we'll call it a step, and we'll come back and start to add some of the big light drama that the clouds are making in the sky.
All right.
It's going to be a really pretty painting when it's done. Amanda is from Trinidad, Tobago, and Cassie says that she loves us. And we got a bunch of Michigan in the house. Patsy's in the house. Pam says, hope you are well during this pandemic. I've had enough now of lockdown. Pam, I'm going to be honest. I am okay, but really because I have you guys and I have a reason to, you know, put stuff out. They are lightening it up in our area, but I feel like it's been, while necessary, maybe a very difficult time. So if you're going through it and you're just over it, I so get it. And my heart goes out to you. I get it. I think we're all there. Ready for things to be things again.
Yes.
At least we have art. That is something.
That's true.
Let's put some more drama in the sky. Let's get back into our round blender. Such a lovely brush. Let's change water. This water is super dirty. See how dirty that water is? I'm not going to get pretty bright oranges. Blue. Yeah, I'm not going to get bright oranges and reds out of it. I have to change if I want my next colors to be bright. So if you're finding that you have weirdly dull colors and you don't know why, somewhere some pigment is getting into the paint that's dulling your colors. Maybe it's a hidden bias in the mix. Maybe it's pigment in your water, and so you want to watch for those things. I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and my Quin Magenta. I like to mix them together into a half mix. And I'm going to begin to put in the glow.
Mmm.
There's a glow happening here. And I'm going to begin to put in this glow. This is a nice red to start with when we're pulling that all together.
Mm-hmm.
And there will, interestingly enough, be some dark cloud over the top of that. That's another thing, is figuring out on a sky like this, when and how do I put in a particular color. It might not be that easy to see. I'm going to go a little more of my cad red and my yellow here. And blend these two together. It should go quite fiery and almost have a glowing heart.
It really is fiery.
Almost have a glowing heart. My pressure is soft. I'm making my brush strokes a little irregular. I've wanted to paint this particular sky for quite a minute. So I'm excited to be doing it.
You're ready for this one?
I am ready for this one. We've got quite a nice glow going there, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
You can put it up in some places. It can be around. As I'm moving over, now you see me wiping the pigment into my brush. That way when I go into my yellow, it's going to be yellow, but it's going to have a nice warmth to it. Because here we do have, it is yellow. And this is going to take a few layers for sure. Add a little orange where I've got to blend back. And again, we've got the next, we'll have that last layer of like interesting purple kind of coming up. I want to bring my brush up. If I need to rinse out and dry off, kind of improve paint flow, I will do that. Are you guys liking to learn about this type of sky?
Mm-hmm.
That's up to the chat. I'm behind. Sometimes I get behind you guys. You chat so fast.
I know, they keep going. I just heard the magic stars thing. Kelly sent stars. Thank you, Kelly.
And I've got some Facebook over here, but I can't see the YouTube.
Oh, you can't see the YouTube?
I can't see YouTube. I can see Facebook. I
YouTube.
can't see YouTube.
I can see them both.
I need a third device over here. I'm just adding a little more red to some of it, and I'm building it up. I'm trying to give this cloud the depth and density you would expect. Now, as I'm going to go up, I'm going to add a little white and yellow together. Kind of come out on this edge a bit. And I'm going to make the edge much more dramatic than maybe it was. Because I'm going to rinse out, dry off. Yeah, I do. I see Mari's done some nice stars, and I appreciate those stars. And I appreciate Super Chat. We appreciate all the ways we support. We appreciate shares. Mm-hmm. We appreciate you guys not unsubscribing when we put up a bunch of videos. And a bunch of people who were like, no, you put up too many videos. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I working too much for free?
You were scheduling crazy.
I was scheduling because you guys have to plan your life, right? And I know there are different things you guys really want to paint. And I thought if I got the plan out a bit ahead for everyone, that you might enjoy that.
It also makes it so that we can, like, start getting things more prepared for those as we get going.
Yeah, having those resources ready for you and thought out, those classes ready and thought out. Now I'm going to get right into my pink here. Interestingly enough, I'm here, there's this sort of pink upswing. Ooh. I do like it, and I do want it there. I just got to think about it as being more pink. And there could be some more pink here. Kind of backing that cloud, isn't it?
Oh.
Getting back in that cloud. So we're starting to build that up. Building it up. Now, when the brush is clean and damp, if the paint is still wet, I can come in and soften. See, I can soften some of these lines.
Yeah.
If it's too wet, it will lift the paint. So it's definitely a soft touch is required when you go through. I'm going to grab a little of my yellow. And play a bit with the light in this cloud. And the reason we're going to play a bit with the light in the cloud is the cloud, the sun is behind it and it's making it glow. That's what's happening. Add a little white and a little water, and I'm blending in a heart. Maybe a little more lit up through here. And then I'm going to grab some white. Start the burst. There's a burst of light kind of coming up through the cloud, and that's why the cloud is very light.
It is. It's very lit.
So I've got to start that. Thinking about that. Building up that form. All right. Hello from KS, Kansas City, says Rebecca. And, you know, everyone is just talking about their pandemic experience. It's not universal, is it? Because, you know, well, the vaccines have not gotten out, you know, to everybody in an equally fast way. And, of course, not everybody has the same relationship to vaccines. And I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life.
That's between you and your doctor.
That's between you and your doctor. And I do highly recommend talking to your doctor. I talked to mine. I got vaccinated. But you know what I missed? The flu shot.
The flu shot. That's right. We were
so busy. I got the other and didn't get the flu shot.
So busy Moderna-ing that we didn't get the regular one.
I'm like, how silly is that? My mom did the same thing. We were like laughing at each other. I'm like, man, all that, and then we don't even get there. I'm going to pull some more red in. Pull that there. Linda says she worked on the cheetah till 8 p.m. Still needs tweaking, but I like this one. I'm so glad to read that. The pacing of the lessons now should be such, those that you guys like to paint every one, you should have enough days between lessons to be able to paint every one.
Yeah.
That we will be consistently painting, because I don't know about you, but I need my paintings to just get through my day.
Oh, yeah. It's just been nice.
All right.
This
Let's
is so
call
pretty.
that a step, because that's a lot to take in. And now then we'll do the last little shadows and highlights that pull the whole sky together. We'll even do our white lining to make it like gorgeous and dramatic. And then we'll get into the work of the water and the beach, which is not small.
Then we'll say thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Don't forget to check the thumbs up button, the like, the comments, you know, all the YouTubery and the Facebookery and the joining us in the, you know, stuff. But yeah, I thought she was done. She turned. No, she is done. Okay, there it is.
What'd I do? I psych everybody out. Let's mist our paint. If you've got a drink or something that you got to do, if you need to stretch, it's a good time to stand up. Don't forget that your back and shoulders and neck are impacted. One of the things, we just did a retreat. We've got another one coming up, but it's been a minute since I painted with everybody in person. And I forget sometimes how physically exhausting it is to paint, because it's not like high impact aerobics, right? So you're like, oh, it's nothing, but actually it's mentally, sometimes emotionally, actually a lot of times emotionally, because we work through so much stuff emotional when we're painting, and then also just physically taxing, right? Like, you're like, I'm painting, and it's really kind of a thing. This is going to be a really pretty painting. When this thing is all done, you guys are going to be like, what? And then I'm going to be like, I know. We did this sort of with the beach. Do you remember when we did the high detail beach with the seafoam, and it really showed through? I had this one at the same time and really wanted to also do it, but we ended up doing some other paintings, so I'm glad we're coming back to this. And I didn't want to throw this at y'all for Acrylic April, because it was already such a big course. Everybody was like feeling it deeply. So in this next part, I'm going to be adding the drama and we put a step up, right? Okay. So we've got dark shadows that are going to come forward again on the clouds. We're going to be working our Quinn, our docks, and our cad red a bit. Should be fun. I'm still going to be in the round blender. You could use any round brush that gives you nice irregular shape, though. It is not the only in the world. Now I'm going to take my cad red and my dock, and I'm going to mix them together. And I'm going to begin to put in the undercloud. Remember the underminer in The Incredibles? Every time I see the undercloud, for some reason, it makes me touch down on the underminer.
Because he was such an awesome little super villain.
Yeah. So, pulling this here. Pull a little of that shadow down there. I can even bring some of this into this space.
Mm-hmm.
It does not hurt sometimes to pull a little shadow in. There we go. Creating a little sense of what it is. And maybe a little more purple coming through here. And it's sort of glowing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You can add some white to that mix, believe it or not, and get some very nice muted sunset purples. You got to be careful when you're in the shadows. I don't know why that hits me so funny, but it does. Got to be careful when you're in the shadows. Be cautious, young adventurer. Many traps await. And I continue to add some deep shadow. In clouds, you'll find that very rarely are they white and fluffy. I mean, they do that sometimes, but often they are moody and kind of break up space. I'm going to add another layer to this. It's just a little darker. Yeah, I did that there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to get back into that thing. Remember how I was like in a smaller brush to sort of help me? I'm going to get back into a smaller brush. I'm going to go back into that small hog. You could do a small round, a number 4 round in the Art Sherpa line. It's all good. Back into my Quinn and purple. I'm going to bring some light there. Gotta detail these things out a bit. And that can be hard to find those spaces, but just slow down and add a little light to that. Coming swooping down here. They were pulling in just a little bit of interest. And I'm just I'm pulling that purple in. We'll come back with yellow and orange. We just want to make sure that we are really, really feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And come here, a little cad and a little yellow. And I'll work it backward. Yeah, I'm working it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
That drama. And go back into the sky. It can. Closer to the yellow clouds, we could make this a little yellower.
Mm-hmm.
Put that down there. I like to just play with it back and forth. Making tiny little lace-like details up in the clouds.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes more into the yellow. Isn't it luminous now?
It is.
A little more orange here. Using a little brush to add little luminous lace-like details. Little bits. Rinse out. Back into the Quin and magenta, the Quin magenta and Cad red. Interestingly enough, if you get a little white into that, it gives you a very nice pink, which I can put up here in this space. Just kissing a little pink into that.
Just lining the clouds there.
It's a big class. We're going to get through it. I very much like to just play with these spaces.
Mm-hmm. I love that goldness of the cloud.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I'm going to get into my white here. And some of this is just a very hot white. Very little though, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we go right into my yellow. Brighten some of that up. Bit of drama there.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Now, when you have all that in, you can decide if you want to do any white lining. But honestly, I think on this one, it is nailed in.
It really is. It's really nice.
I think we got it there. We got quite a dramatic little sunset, didn't we? That was no punk sunset.
No.
That was no just orange red. That was like, woo, all the colors. And now we're going to get into the ocean in much a similar way. Similar tool, similar way. Let's get a picture, sip our coffee.
And we'll welcome Rhonda to Patrons of YouTube.
Rhonda! It's a good time to join. We got a cool new painting coming up. I can't believe, more vaccine news. You guys are so like helping each other out. Thank you, Kelly, for the stars. And Cassie's explaining to Cheryl, Stay Wet Palette. Stay Wet Palette is a palette that has specialty paper in it. Well, the official one has a specialty paper that you soak, and it's got a sponge underneath. You can load several wet papers, and it's got a lid, and it allows you to keep your acrylic paint wet for days, and really slows down that drying time. And I really love using it, but it does take a little preparation and setup to work correctly.
Days, you say?
Mm-hmm.
What is this magic?
Kelly Marie. And then Darcy says, I'll be in Michigan on the 4th. Listen, check the event schedule on the artsherpa.com because we have an open meetup coming up. I think it's July 22nd. It's the Sunday from 1 to 3. And we're going to do like ATC painting and everything. It's free to come to that.
That's going to be
so
fun.
Go to the event. That's an event that you buy a ticket for. And I think we only have like a ticket left. But the meetup is free. And it's a lot of fun, and we'll take care of you, and you can come in, and we're going to do little ATCs and have a little swap, and it'll be a really good time. If you guys like to do that. If you'd like to meet me and hang out and do all that, it's over here in the Poconos.
I like meeting you. I'd like to meet you in person. Wonder what you're like. Are you like what you're like on YouTube in real person?
Oh my gosh, I so am. Isn't that sad? Okay, so we're going to be painting the front, and I'm going to go ahead and get a little bright. For that, I guess I'll get this Raphael Precision. I just want a small bright brush that gives me a little bit of control. So as I'm blocking in this, it's easy for me to do with. And to add colors to that, I'm going to want a few more colors. I'm going to add some brown to the mix. This is burnt sienna, and we'll go over the whole palette again in just a second. And I'm going to also add black. I know I have a pouch somewhere. I'm going to add Mars Black, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green. And the reason I'm adding ultramarine blue and phthalo green is because the ocean is a little bit darker, and I feel like that will help us get there. So I'm going to add a little ultramarine blue. I'll put it up by my phthalo blue, and we'll just go over the colors just again, and then we'll be in it. And we'll put out a little phthalo green, I guess, over here. It is really weird. That tube feels weird, but it's not. It felt weird. Okay. Mars Black, burnt sienna, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, cad red, cad yellow, dioxazine purple, quinacridone magenta, phthalo green, and titanium white. We'll put out a little more titanium white. Won't we?
That would be good.
And we're going to make some rocks and some waves and some nice reflection on the water. And at the end of it, we're going to have the beach that we wish we were on today.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I want to do is start to paint in some of the beach color, which I'm going to begin as a Mars Black and burnt sienna base. I want it to be kind of dark, and that's just so that I can put some of the lighter sand color in, and also so that the rocks will have some nice contrast when I paint them a slightly brighter color. So I'm just painting that with this bright. This is a number 16 bright. You know, but really what you're looking for is one about the size of your thumbnail. That gives you a nice edge. It doesn't have to be. Brush sizes are super nonsensical. I really, really mean that. And many of you logical people will be like, surely it's millimeters, you think. But only a few of the companies that do it in that with that kind of thinking involved. So we're just going to paint the shore. And I like to brush a bit into the water, and here's why. Because some of the seafoam coming forward, right, will show the shore underneath. So why not start to deal with that now? Be a little more brown. I'm also kind of directionally putting those lines in, and the reason is so that when I put the water, the seafoam coming forward.
Are you up for a color mixing question?
I'm always up for a color mixing question. It's why I teach art online.
If phthalo blue and phthalo, I feel like this is a riddle.
Okay, if I can answer it, I will. If I can't, I'll look it up and find the answer for you.
If phthalo blue and phthalo green make
Phthalo turquoise.
Phthalo turquoise, does ultramarine and phthalo green make phthalo teal?
I wouldn't say it was phthalo teal, but it's a teal. It is definitely more of a teal. I think the ultramarine does kind of cancel out because of its strong red bias, the green, the yellow in the phthalo blue just tends to. But I mean, you love it anyways, don't you? I do. I'm just covering the canvas. This is layer 1. Ready Player layer 1. This is layer 1. And I am kind of like, you can kind of see now with my rocks that arrangement, can't you?
Yeah.
It's a nice arrangement. You got to think of it as flower arranging or anything else. You know, you want a nice arrangement. Sometimes the canvas like fights the paint. I'm going to add a little more water to get it to stop. Now, the ocean, I'm going to begin with a little bit of the ultramarine blue. And the phthalo green. If I have to, I'll get phthalo blue into it because I do want it to be somewhat dark. And it's not completely perfectly level, but I do want a level-ish horizon line. So I'm going to put my T-square down to give me a hand. Now, what's interesting is we have a lot of waves and stuff in this one. Sometimes I do a better straight line from this angle, which is why I'm turning the canvas.
That's okay.
And just give that a check and be like, is that visually to the eye okay? I'm not going to go too much in the center because it's got such a bright orange. You can even get a little, oddly enough, you wouldn't think of it, you can get a little brown into it. See how it's quite deep? This is, again, layer 1. And these colors can be very transparent. So I expect to have to build up the painting.
Right.
If I was doing it in palette knife, maybe not, because I'd be applying the paint so thick it would be opaque. But in thin layers, I gotta pretty much expect to be building up the painting. There is some brush directionality that you see me doing. It's kind of leveling out as it goes to the horizon. But we're going to be exaggerating the pull of this water. So I'm letting my brush strokes do that a little bit for me at this stage.
Yeah.
You can do that too. I really look forward to, oh gosh, I painted over my rock. I look forward to, that'll happen sometimes. You'll be painting and like, I painted over my rock.
You just have to repaint them.
Yeah. It's all got to get repainted at some point. So everything in some ways is just a suggestion.
It's all just one continuous underpainting.
In some ways. Just adding some layers up here. Yes, it is a bit orange in the center, and we can even talk about that now. A little more red than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very much because of the sky above it. And some of that will be coming down through the whole painting. In some kind of way. Even into the sand. And we will be pulling that forward. Anywhere that's wet, anywhere that there's a reflection. All right. So it should look hot messy at this point.
It looks kind of cool.
You'll be like, I don't know where we're going here. Sky worked out, but what's happening with the ocean? Let's take a picture of this, and I'll show you how we keep building up these layers to get the same drama and intensity that we have up here, down here in the water. I might need new fresh water today.
Yeah, we can work on that.
Angela Maxwell is in the house wishing me happy birthday. Thank you so much, Angela. I've known Angela a long time. I think Angela's been here since like the first paintings on YouTube. She's been amazing. If you've been here since the first paintings on YouTube, thank you. Hi, thank you for hanging in with me. I'm so thrilled that anybody stayed. Surprised, thrilled, and happy that anybody stayed. Okay. I'm getting some fresh water from the John. I'm going to drink some coffee. And we'll talk conceptually about, Oh, this step's going to be easy to find again. Usually the steps are up so fast that I'm like, where was it? Where was it? Where was it? But this time I'll be like, I know where it is. I can find it. Taking a deep breath. So big structures we'll be worrying about, of course, is the rock and how to pull their values in and make them feel different than the ocean that they're on. We've got some wonderful wave structures that we're going to be playing with and churning water stuff structures that we're going to be definitely playing with. Everything coming forward, I think, is going to be actually quite a lot of fun. I'm going to grab a number 4 round. I do have a number 4 round today. You see that there? This is going to help me do some detail work in some of the spaces. And one of the things I want to do is I want to make an orange, like you do. Lovely orange, but I'm going to bring it over to my brown. And I'm going to start discussing my rock in these more lit colors with strong shadow. Come up to the top of this rock and paint that in. So that's an orange into the brown. And again, you can see that this particular one, I think these are, I don't know, I think they might be Artist Loft. Sometimes the Artist Loft will fight for paint. Not uncommon for it to do that. It's just the beginning of the layer. Let's do, maybe the front of this has a bit more of that before we had shadow. And then I wanted to have some rock here. And maybe we could have one here. Anywhere we have a highlight, that could be a stone.
Could it?
Mm-hmm.
A stone.
Anywhere there's a highlight, that could be a stone. Add a little more yellow. And let's just real quick talk about the tops of these. This structure is really neat. If you're a geologist, this rock formation has a real specific name. I am not aware of it though.
Oh.
Like I know that it does, but I just don't know the name like off the top of my head. But it's a real specific type of volcanic event that happens to make the rock come out in these strong things, and the way the waves crash down on it cause it to have like the sheeting.
I did not know that.
And so it happens specifically at beaches and areas where there's water erosion. I cannot remember the name. Internet, tell me, what is the name?
They're volcano rocks.
Yeah, I mean, they are for sure, but often rocks are volcano rocks, though.
That's a technical term for them. Volcano rocks. I'm sure there's something even more technical than that, but it is beyond my technical
knowledge to know.
My volcanic awareness.
Now I'm gonna just go ahead and get a very dark brown black, like almost pure black, and I'm gonna come in and paint the shadows here. And that's just because it will help me create the form of these rocks, and then I can build them up in layers and sheets later.
Mm-hmm.
But if I know where those values are, it can work the values first.
Oh.
Put a little crack in that rock. It needs a crack. Every rock needs a crack. And this is a little bit darker than, say, the beach. Which is kind of nice. Now, I may want to come in with maybe a lighter hint of an area here. Sometimes I'll tell myself where something is, be like, oh, I think I wanted something there. And again, this is just a layer. And you may come back and put some more highlights in, but we're just starting to say basic form, activate.
Mm.
So if you can see the shapes, the highlight, and the way that they play against the shadows, that's really what's going to make your rock. And then the rough kind of brush strokes and everything that we do later will definitely help.
Oh.
But initially, you just want to make sure that you've got good highlights and good shadows to help your rock take shape. Now here, it may be a little harder to see the value until you lighten the sand.
Yeah.
But it's still worth starting to paint in. And then as you lighten the sand, these will start to pop up. I would give them shadows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not perfect, and they don't need to be at this stage. They just need to be there. Let's call this a step, because if you guys get this, the rest of the beach will come in for you. But I want you guys to kind of focus on trying to get these rough shapes and highlights and shadows, so that when we build everything else, you've got that good structure to work from. Does that make sense? Get that good structure to work from. You guys are amazing. Yeah, everyone's talking about the free meetup. Definitely come to that. Rebecca Hoffman. I love Rebecca Hoffman. Cinnamon, hope you know how much you mean to a lot of us. You and John keep me smiling, and I know I started to feel depressed. I watch y'all, and I start to feel better. Thank you for everything you do. You guys do the same for me. When I start to feel down, which this, obviously COVID was like harder than any other, it's been a rough time. But you guys keep my spirits up. The beautiful things you say in group, the beautiful shares you do online, the way you do the paintings, the way you share stories, you guys keep me up. So if I'm helping you too, I love that we have that relationship, because I think it's important.
Our favorite thing really is to come out here and just be live with you guys.
It's true. I'm going to take this weird brush, believe it or not.
That weird brush?
And
what
I'm going to be doing some sand.
What's that weird brush?
This is the number 12 Princeton round blender. It's a domed round blender, and it's got kind of a rough surface. I could probably also do this with this, and I may switch to it because this is pretty rough. You want something that's sort of rough, and we'll give you a stamply thing. If you've got my clouds, these might do this well here as long as you loosen them up.
So you really
want
could
to loosen up the clouds, though, before you try to get them to do anything. I should have called them domes of cumblers. Me. What am I doing? But let's come in here, and we're going to get a little bit of our brown and maybe our yellow.
Oh.
Start with a little brown and yellow. And I'm going to begin to create a rough beach or shoreline. This is a rough texture. I could do this with a sea sponge too.
Lots of different ways you could make this effect.
Lots of different ways, but what I want is a sense of, depth. I'm going to go sometimes into my brown a little more. Sand is generally never one color.
Mm-hmm.
It's often a mix of colors. How you get this right, how it goes wrong is if you do a uniform stippling of a color across, and then another uniform stippling of another sand color. It won't look right. It'll just look like the white noise on TV.
Right.
But if you can shade the stippling and still have a little bit of it there, plus, the texture, then it will look like what you're looking. So if you're not getting it, probably what's happening is you're creating the white noise on your TV. Notice I'm going into the brown.
Too uniformed.
Yeah, you don't want to be too uniform. It has to have what everything in life has. It has to have light and value. I'm going to rinse out. And I'm going to go back into my black and brown, quite dark. This is a dark beach, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be this with the light sand and then the glow of the sunset across it that'll pull it all together. When it works, you're going to love it. Brown and black. I'll make sure that my sand goes deep into my rock. Maybe get a little more brown here and start to highlight some area. So what happens on some of the sand is that, it catches a little sunlight and it warms. It is not all a uniform color. A little darker back here.
Yeah.
And the stippling, again, creates that diffused look that you want. If I want to come through here, I can put some of that through, but, I've got to be careful. I don't want to just go a uniform, even. And it can be hard when you're looking at a teacher do this because it can look like I'm going across it uniformly.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see the little ways that I might lighten my pressure or deepen my pressure to create an irregular effect. Sometimes you guys can't see everything that's happening, even with the close-up camera in the brush, which is why it's important that I narrate it out for you. All right, rinse out a good bit. Now I'm going to take my yellow, my red, and I'm going to make a pretty strong orange. I'll go ahead and get a little brown into it. I know I've got waves and things coming up. Also, there's this wonderful, maybe a little more red over here. Sunset effect. Very lightly. Different little stones might capture that. A little more red on some of it. If it gets too yellow, I'll mix it through the brush. One of the things that can happen is you see this little yellow spotting there?
Uh-huh.
You'll have an unexpected color in your brush. And you got to put it down, and it gives you an effect you don't want. You've got to watch for it.
Okay.
I'm going to mix some brown in.
If you start to get it, you just dry it and go again?
Yeah. Start to get it, and you can even blend it out too, wet into wet.
Oh.
Right? But what you want to do is recognize that it happened, and then diffuse it and try to take it away if you can. Now, there's some wonderful little kind of gray stones that are out here, aren't there?
Mm-hmm.
And to get that gray, I'm going to do something weird. I'm actually going to go, oops, didn't mean to go into my orange there. I'm going to go ultramarine and brown. And that's going to give me gray, and I'm going to go into my white. So not black and white like you might think. And this is hard because I've got to make sure that I disperse these, but in a way that feels like a natural beach.
Right.
Makes you appreciate nature, doing it so casually as if it wasn't any effort. I guess for it wasn't. Trying to get those little deep values. And I want little kind of pinpoints. Some of it is heavier in some areas than others. I guess that's where those stones might be picked up a bit more.
Yeah.
And dropped off. And then, and this is the fussy bit. Into the fussy bit. I'm going to make a light gray. I'm going to thin it with water. and I'm going to just place stone. Normally, you know, on stuff, I wouldn't even be like, let's get this fussy. But on this type of sand, there's just no choice. You've just got to breathe through it. And add, these are like little shells. They represent so much stuff, right? And when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's sand. Yeah, it just, you can do a lot with a brush or sponge, but at some point, you've just got to come out and paint your stars, I guess. You could splatter to do some of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a fast way that you could get it through. The trick will be like to have dots that are big and dots that are small, so things feel like what they are, which is randomly placed. It'd be nice to have dark too, but I think we got a nice deep dark value to begin with.
Little dots are all nice.
It can help. It can help us find our beach. Can't beach comb unless there's something to find on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you could. You just might not find anything.
And every time unsuccessful beach comb.
Every time someone says, I'm going to go comb the beach, I think of Spaceballs. We've combed this section of the beach, sir. We'll have to go over here and comb this other section.
So funny. Rinse that out. And even kind of come here and get a little bit of our bright orange. I may have to put out some more yellow in a minute. Maybe just a little bit of the sunlight, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that make a difference. Oh, goodness gracious. That was busy. Let's call that a step and put out some yellow paint.
All right.
Almost need a fresh cup of coffee.
I may work on that.
All right. So you guys seeing how that texture and sand went in? Now, when we put the waves over it and finish out the rocks, it's going to create a beach that you feel like you can already put your toes into and hear the noise the sand would make. And you'll start to hear the waves come into the shore, and you'll smell the sea air and really kind of connect to what you're in. But the next thing that we've got to do is rock it up. We need some rocks. We do. So let's paint some rock. Decide what I want to do. I might take my little hog brush just because it'll give me a rough beginning. I'm going to come here and make a little brown and black on my little hog brush. And I'm going to start to put in the rough kind of shadowing or modeling of the stone. Okay, to sort of blend it through here. These stones are volcanic, so they do have that going on in them. At this point, we're learning to randomize what we've got, so hopefully it won't feel too much like any kind of work. Now I'm going to take a bunch of my yellow and some of my brown and get almost an ochre. I need to add a little red into it until I find my rock color, white. And let's come and finish some of these rough surfaces. Just stipple your brush up and down. You can find it. Stippling up and down, upward and downward motion. And a bit of your highlight color. Again, you can come grab a little of that and a little of that. And just add some white where needed. Maybe a little heavier on the bottom of that rock there. Making sure we have little highlights. Maybe a little warmer into the sunset colors where the rocks are in the light of the sunset. And that's okay. And then coming down the back, I'm going to get a little more brown going on in there. I'm going to soften the transition between the shadow of the rock and the top surface. Super doable. So we're keeping the shape. And we're keeping the values. The rock doesn't lose its shape or value, but we're just making sure that it has the feeling of something that is maybe perhaps a little worn by water. Just softening that edge there. See, and it's the up and down motion of the brush and the softening of the edge that gets it. And then what I can do when I have nice rocks, and we do have nice rocks now, don't we? Is I can come through and take a little of our black. Where maybe like I need defined dots, I can do that. And I can also come under the rock on the beach and exaggerate its shadow. Okay, just clean its edge. Clean its edge. And then I can even get a little more yellow and red kind of going into this. Maybe a little more yellow. Along the edge of this rock and highlight it a bit. Just so the shape of it maybe has some sense of having caught light. Might bring some back here to give it a sharp face. Wherever you highlight it, where you highlight it, it will push that forward, and where you shade it, it will push it back. And with rocks, it's just about finding those little spaces where they have the highlights. See how this is going? It's going beautifully. Going beautifully. Look at these rocks go. Look at them now. They're nice. They're lovely rocks. You're lovely rocks. You're lovely rocks. All right. So that's really about these two brushes working together. You don't have to have these two brushes, but what you want is a way to create a rough texture and a way to create that, both the texture of the rock, the brushstroke of the rock, but the value, how light and dark it is.
Yep.
Let's call that a step.
Ooh.
And then we'll come and do these rocks in their own step because they're a little bit different than the rounded ones. Similar, but a little different. Big project. Perfectly timed, am I? So I can sip my coffee and do that. How are you guys enjoying this? This is an interesting one because I think, I get asked a lot how I paint rocks, and there's some simplified ways to do it that look okay, and are a great way to introduce yourself to the concept. But, when you're just painting them, it's really rather fun to get into how they're created because I think we have our clouds. That's our challenge, right? Initially, when we're painting, like, oh, I can't paint clouds. And then it's, I can't paint water. And then it's, I can't paint rocks. But really, clouds and water and rocks are the same thing. They're just, in terms of painting, the techniques, the values, those same concepts, but how we concert those techniques together that creates the rock or the cloud or the water.
Huh.
In my opinion.
Is it?
I'm going to go back into my rough brush because that was actually a pretty happy making brush for me.
All right.
I'm going to come here and get a little bit of my orange into my brown. I'm going to come to the front of just this one. Kind of a rough little forward highlight. Another way, and we don't often think of it, is we can go into our red and black to create some very interesting brown.
Mm-hmm.
Painting these in and starting to think about how we want the rock faces to be, because the rock face here, it is visible, but it's a little bit of darker rock. The shadows are a little different, and I think we'll want to use some grays and stuff in it as well. So I'm going to want to get into my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue as well to talk a bit about the gray of the rock. I'm just brushing it back. And these are rough brush strokes. I'm trying to kind of blend surfaces together and rough them up. And then where I want to go into, maybe a darker color, that right there, right? Like this has a bit of a grayed surface, right? Rock painting. Different than what you think.
More conversation than you thought.
Much more than anybody ever thinks. No one ever thinks the rock's as involved as it is. It's one of the more interesting topics to paint. Sometimes I like to go through and improve the shadow spaces so that, because these have little dots in them because the canvas didn't want to take the paint. So I'm going to come back and kind of eke them out a bit.
Yeah.
So that I can add some mid-range highlights of not fully sun-exposed rocks, but rocks that are hiding in, as they sometimes do. I'm going to sort of brush up a little brown, kind of coming up over the surface of this. Get a little yellow there. Get a little orange going again. Be hiding a little plane into that.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about our rock. And where the shadows and highlights fall. Even if I come in here with like some dark, it starts to see how we're defining shape.
Mm-hmm.
Back with a little gray. Still, you know, on top of the rock. Bumping it up and down.
Linda was saying when I mix colors, they don't seem to match yours. Could it be because of the brand of paint?
It could be.
You're using a different brand?
Burnt sienna is not the same burnt sienna from line to line to line. And that's why knowing the bias of your color helps you color mix no matter what brand you have. Like you can throw any brand of paint at me and I can get where I'm going because I can look at this and go, okay, this is biased more red than yellow, or this is biased more blue than red or yellow. And I can kind of look at what colors are in it. Does it need which primary more to lift up and down? The best way to get around that problem is to do a color chart. Because what a color chart will do for you, boring though they are, and confusing though they are to make, what a color chart does for you, I'm adding little highlights, is it allows you to see what your paint is doing, right? What colors your paint is making, and then you can look at that chart and what colors I'm making and figure out where in the chart you're closest to me. You can also, like, every once in a while, we don't do this enough. That's one of the big things we talked about and we're doing the retreats, is we practice our brush strokes and we practice our color mixing a little bit before we paint, because sometimes before you start a project, you want to get out your stuff and be like, hey, how am I going to get this brush stroke? How am I going to get this color mix? You know, and it's hard to give ourselves permission to spend that time, you know, maybe doing that. I'm getting kind of like a gray yellow. It's kind of a muted color, but I like the idea of it right here, going around the front of the rock a little bit. See how it's like glowing a bit?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find that. So that's what's happening, G, though, probably, is that it's a combination of, you know, your ultramarine blue may be slightly off from mine because it's a slightly different brand, or maybe I'm using pure pigment and you're using a hue. Hues don't mix quite the same as pure pigments because hues are made from other colors. So sometimes hues can throw you, but not for long. Not if you get to know your paint. I'm adding a little brown here. You get to know your paint, right? And you spend a little time with it and get to know its nature. It's never that you have to upgrade your paint to complete a painting, because you'll be like, oh, well, this paint is a little bit glazy, and you'll recognize that about your paint and then use it from that perspective. You won't be as tempted to try to make it be something that it's not.
Gotcha.
Right, because we don't want to make it something that's not. Back into the black where I need it. And you'll see that I will worry about like cracks and things. And shaping stuff. The shadows are as important as the highlights, I think, especially in rock. Shadows are as important as the highlights in rock, because that's how the rock gets rough. How you roughing up the rock? You got to do it in the shadows. Yeah, and you ever notice like every highlight changes the shape of the rock?
Yeah.
Every shadow changes its shape as well. What I'm doing here is like just allowing some of the faces of the rock to catch some sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
My brush is kind of dirty, so it's not so bright that it's going to ruin the painting. Get my gray and blend it in through there. That's that ultramarine and burnt sienna.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even if you're painting different paint than me, your ultramarine and your burnt sienna should make a gray. That should be happening. Perhaps it is a different gray. Perhaps it is the same gray, but it should be a gray. All right. I feel like we've said as much about that rock as we really need to.
A lot. You talked a lot about that rock.
We spent some time with our rock. We'd spend more time if we wanted to have water running down it from a wave crashing on it. But I feel like we've got there, and it's enough for our waves to really run around it and for our ocean to pull together. Let's call that a step. See? 3 hoots is just a lot more steps, and then we'll start getting into the water where this whole piece, that middle, is going to just pull it all together. We're just going to start our techniques. We're going to put our foam in the ocean coming forward. We're going to splash some waves. We're going to make some distant chop. We're going to have a gorgeous corridor of light coming down the water through the waves. It's going to be just fun all the way through. And also there's some very fun kind of S-curves and fluid strokes to this because our reference almost captured the motion of the wave. And that was another thing that sort of interested me. It was like, can we in our painting kind of do what the photograph did here, which is pull that motion, the motion of the ocean. All right. Now, looking at this, I'm going to take a white chalk pencil, if I can find my white chalk pencil, which I put somewhere, but it's short, so it may have fallen in a hole. The reason I like a white chalk pencil is because it vanishes pretty easily off the, there it is, off the canvas. Easy to get erase or get rid of. I need to buy some more. Okay. So here, as we come along, let's kind of redraw the core of our waves that are perhaps coming forward. I'm going to pull the wave a little bit in front of that rock. And we know it kind of comes into here. There's a bit of it that comes into here. And then right. And then some here that washes around that way. And then, of course, we have this coming forward through here, washing around this way. So I'm going to start with my rough brush and see if that'll work. If it doesn't work, I may move to my round. This is my hog, and I'm going to get a little of my ultramarine, some of my white together. If I've got to add a little brown to gray it a bit, I will. And I'm going to begin to come forward and sort of pull back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want it not wet though, so I got to watch that. I got to watch the water. right around this. Figure out the directionality. 'Cause there's some interesting multi-directions of these waves. They are very challenging and compound. Because like here, they're kind of coming forward like this. You do want to let some of what's underneath show through.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come hard on the edge and then pull back a little bit. We're just starting to acknowledge the flow of water.
Ah.
We may come back, well, we will come back and, pull it perhaps different ways. Talk about the fluidity of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming out light on my toe of my brush and making sure this is lace light. Light. Got to be light at first.
That's nice.
Pulling little bits of the water, the seafoam through this harder bit of we're starting to talk about that. You can see how that shoreline is starting to go. Not terrible, not bad. We can live with it. Back into my bright brush. This is the Precision Bright Synthetic. I may have to get into purple or deeper color if I can't get it deep enough with this. And it seems like it needs to be deeper, so I'm going to actually go Docks Purple and Phthalo Green. It's going to give me a very deep blue that will look a lot like the deep depth of the ocean. And I can come back with some highlights where needed. Just need this to have some deep, deep color. Now, we have a wave, and if I were to say where it travels, it kind of comes here, comes around here, and is down this way. And then, if I were to say the top of it, we're in that space. Okay. I just want to know where I'm putting my dark water up to before I begin to change it up again, which is the Diox and the Phthalo Green. And this water is super churny. Have you guys noticed how churny the water is? There's just waves and ripples and motion. And so that's something we have to kind of figure out how we're going to paint and where we're going to paint it and where we're going to avoid it. What's the dance? Coming across there a little carefully and just trying to get some depth to the water. This is sort of the architecture that we will hang the rest of the painting on. Move the wave a bit. I can come back later and really hit it, but right now, thinking about where it is. Now I'm going to call this a step because if we get here, once we start putting in the chop in the distant water and that center, it'll help us pull these items forward and forward and forward. And then we'll finish with the seafoam detail, which will make the seafoam look like it's in motion, like it's transparent, like it's pulling back and opening up the way we love to see on the shore. All right. You ready for this, babe? For
I am.
All right. We'll just step. But we're not going to stop on step 13 because I don't want to do that. So don't worry. We'll be well into 15 or 60 by the time we're done. That's okay. I'm going to miss my paint because I don't have the wet palette out. So this is where we're at. I'm going to do a thing real quick while we're, see if I can find you guys on, my channel over here. That's always good. All right. How are you doing? Okay. So do you guys see where this is at right now? And Robert says, wow, she's so good at making it so easy to follow. She's doing and making Philly. Yes, I can do this. Oh my gosh, Anne, thank you for saying that. My goal is not to show you that I can do painting. My goal, otherwise I would just paint and put it to music, right? To show you I can do a painting is just put on some piano music and you watch me do a painting. But my goal is that you guys actually can do this, and I really believe that you can if we break it down enough and break it into steps that you can work through. If you give yourself about twice the amount of time that I take in the painting for you doing it, sometimes 3 times, just to give yourself to pause, to rewind, to hear a concept again. That with the mini books, that with the traceable, that with the resources, you should be able to get through stuff that will really surprise you. And if you keep at it, you will get there. You will get the skills that you're looking to get in your art. Art is just one of those things, like if you persevere, you get there. Like, I'm always amazed, like, looking back at people's journeys and go, wow, they really hung in. And they're seeing the results for it. They really hung in, and they're seeing the results for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, back to where I was on this. Yay! And I will continue on. We've got to start creating some detail in the water. Water is a little faraway space. I'm going to take this scruffly brush because it's just been really fun to use. And I'm going to begin to put in what I'm kind of seeing here in the reds and golds. I'm going to take a little of my red and yellow. And I don't want this brush to be wet, so I'm going to dry it off with my towel. These are oranges, they're far away, and I'm going to kind of make short brush strokes. You see the short brush strokes? And begin to talk about fabulous corridor of light. Now, interestingly enough, sometimes I might put a little of my Quin Magenta out to deepen my red, where it would go into the phthalo green.
Yeah.
Because if you take Quin Magenta and phthalo green together, you get an incredible violet. And by transitioning the red into the Quins, I can do some cool stuff in the ocean for it to look like it's blended in a little better. See how we're doing? Just edging that out. That'll make those transitions with the CAD to the green just a little more doable. I've got my little wave here. I'm more into my yellow red. Get into that wave. And what's great is that we have these like pops of yellow. There's quite a lot of motion in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll curve these little strokes. There's a lot of S curves that I really like. Like, so I'll curve this here. See how I'm kind of curving the brush stroke? And I'm letting the water flow into itself. I'm going to come back and get some of my red. And I'm just kind of flowing the water into itself. So that little space there where the water's flowing, can you see that flow now?
It really can. The swirliness.
Yeah, and we want to talk about the swirliness as well as the fact that the light is on it. So in those spaces, I do want to play with that. You know, as I move back, I might get more into my orange and maybe a little more into the quin. Yellow, or just making the center of that space. More yellow into it. You know how we painted the cloud? We're painting this area of the ocean as thoughtfully as we painted the cloud.
That's true.
Well, it's happening. We're just being thoughtful. I'm using this small. This is a number 4. I'll put the exact brushes in the mini book. Exact brands and numbers. But again, I don't want you to get too hung up on brushes.
Right.
Be hung up on techniques. Be hung up on performance, but don't be too hung up on brand. Not even my brand. Come in and get some white. I'm just pulling some white into that. A little white into that.
I like
too.
that a lot. The swirls.
Yeah, I do as well.
Swirl.
I do as well. This challenging but worthwhile, guys. Challenging but worthwhile. You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Making kind of a peachy off-white color for the distant chop.
This is where they really come together, though.
And we're definitely going to talk about some distant chop. Because there is.
Mm-hmm.
And get into that seafoam green, right? Which was the ultramarine and the phthalo green. We're just going to blend this in a little bit here. We don't want to take out deep shadows at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But we do need to add some of these little highlights. You know, maybe in the distance here, let's push the brush a little bit to talk about chop.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Maybe there's some
Add
chop.
the chop.
There's some chop. A little white to the top of the chop. Not really that dissimilar from when we added a little white to the top of the cloud. Far, far away. Little phthalo green and dark purple make that deep blue, don't they?
They really do.
We just did we're working on a video to release on how this actually is.
I love this ocean.
Coming together.
It really makes that sky look good.
All right, let's call this a step because that was a lot to take in, and then we'll just keep doing a little more.
Okay.
Let's get this in because if you get this in, right, look at that. That's wonderful. And we'll just keep playing with the details until all the water flows into the beach. And that's the goal, right? All the water is going to flow into the beach. Are you guys doing beautiful? Have you told everyone how much fun it is? I think this is just really a joy. Karen says these days should be really good basic camera out there. Not like when I was a kid, technology has really changed photography. My iPhone, which, we have to have for work and everything, I have to say this last event, we were like, definitively, it is a better camera. I don't even know that I would carry the DSLR anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's like
it's
your
just
new iPhone.
Amazing. Madeline, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate that as well. I thank you so much for thinking of me. It just means the world. Back to the painting, though. Back to the reference, back to the painting, because we're doing this together and we have a goal. Mm-hmm. Let's come onto this side and talk a little bit about the distance, right? I'm going to go back into my blue, which is my green and purple. It makes it deep and dark, doesn't it, back here? Nice to get into those deep colors and, sometimes think about them a bit. It's a small brush, but sometimes a small brush lets me get a handle on some things that I really want to touch into. From that brush, I can get a little bit of moisture on there and get my white into it. And what you'll notice, again, is because it's the green and purple, I will get a very lovely blue. I'm just tapping on the tip of the brush here, and we're talking about some distant water, distant foam, distant chalk. And it's important, we get that out there and look at that. Get a little wet on my brush. I might change my water now because my water is dirty. Mm-hmm. Important time to get a little moisture on there. So I'm still on my kind of weird little brush. We're just talking about distant chalk. If the canvas were very large, we might want to paint all the little details. But when the canvas is a little bit smaller, I want to kind of maybe generalize a little bit more. Painting those little areas. Mm-hmm. Do them on both sides. A little heavier on the white. Now, because I've done gray here, when I come in with my white, it kind of adds some of the dimensionality that you'd expect from what we're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not so one-dimensional of one color.
Oh, hi. Melanie says, hello from the retreat.
Hello, Melanie. How are you doing? Oh my gosh, it is so good to hear from you. Did you get home okay? Have a nice flight? Everything all right? Actually, did Melanie? Yeah, Melanie flew, right? Not that everyone needs to know that. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't remember.
Drop off and pick up was like,
we had multiples.
A blur.
I think I took Melanie.
Yeah, I thought so. It was. I am feeling really good.
In the blue one.
I hope you were feeling really good. I hope you had a great time. We have some cool surprises coming. adding some white out there. So you can see we're just talking about it far, far away. In an ocean far, far away. And sometimes I want to get here, load up a bit. Maybe a little more white. We don't want to take away all of our shadows, though. Our shadows, help us see the water, help us see what's happening.
Right.
I definitely want to think about that while I'm painting this. The directionality of my brush stroke. Curving. Is it waving? What is it doing? How do we see it? Just grab a little blue there with my ultramarine, and that's okay to do. And make sure that behind our wave, things are a little choppy, because they are. Where you've got chop, you've got chop. See how we're working that out there, building that up. A little more white.
Yeah, Melanie said she had a great time.
Yay! I'm so glad. Adding little white highlights where we can. Color, pops of what's happening. Now, the last little touch that I'm going to do here before I get into the kind of wave area is I'm going to take, interestingly enough, I'm going to take a little bit of my purple. We're going to use the purple, maybe some red to it, but mostly the purple as kind of a shadow. And sometimes even in the light, we have little shadows, don't we?
Yeah.
Let that wet. Sometimes I have to dry up my brush. And Melanie kind of reminds me of this. If you don't love a brush, you don't have to use it just because I'm using it. There are a lot of brushes sometimes that will do the techniques actually most times, that I will do the techniques that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to feel like you have to have what I have. That is not necessary. And not also true. Because again, many, many ways that brush companies solve the problems of artists.
Right.
And so if, the tool that I decide to use isn't your favorite, chances are a brush company has another alternate tool that would be. Okay, let's call that a step and then come back and wave some more. You haven't waved enough? Let's wave some more. You guys over it yet? My goodness. How are you guys doing? Oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Madeline. I don't know. It's showing me too, but it's... Oh, Madeline. Thank you. Huh? I did. All right. So take this in, kind of give this a look. Looky. See where we're at. At this stage, the hard visualization from how do we go from the reference to like, the finished painting should be starting to gel and be like, okay, you should just be at a place where you're like, I just got a wave between me and awesome. Just a wave between me and awesome.
Yeah.
And again, for all of you that hung in for all my notifications, thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Just wanted to make sure you guys could plan your months ahead. So you know when these big babies are coming, and you can make sure that you're there for that. Now, the wave. The first thing that I want to talk about on a wave, and let's put out a little more purple because it's such a nice way to get a deep color, is waves are deepest at the foot. That's the base of the wave. They get lighter as they go up. They also have like a lot of brushstroke and directionality. And they don't have to be like a completely neat and perfect object that comes across in like a line. Because the bottom of the ocean can be uneven, therefore changing the direction of the wave and how it's flowing at you. I'm going to take my green and blue together, and I'm going to start to paint the base of the wave. And where it changes direction, that's okay. You can show it. Like saying it's like coming here. Right. See some of this wave more by its froth.
Yeah.
Than anything else. And I'm going to deepen some of my water out here like you need to. And I'm making it darker using the dot and the phthalo green. Good color combo for that. And I'm on my number 4 round, just trucking along. You need a little more water in the brush. You can always just dip in a little bit. Give a nice hard edge to your froth.
Oh, that wave's really coming in there now.
It is going to just come in like gangbusters out of the blue. And then it'll be like this wonderful little shape. And then we'll have that bit of froth coming up on the shore. We won't necessarily do every like crazy motion. But we're going to take what we loved about it. Sometimes things work in a photograph, but will not work in a painting. And it's an interesting thing. So you got to know when to simplify and what stuff you want to keep in a subject and what you need to let go of. All right, so let's start with the top of our wave, which we can begin with our unusual blue from the green and purple. And I'm going to get a little white into that color and start to directionally. I'm still on my weird little hog brush.
It's a good brush, though. It seemed to have...
It's going. I'm going to bring some wave forward here. And come up here a little bit at the top. Very interesting, isn't it? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
And it just does its little curl. It finds its little space. And that's how we get that weird little shape wave that's coming in. And come over the top of this. Now, at the top of the crest, I am curving my brush stroke to kind of tell you the direction of the foam. Sometimes the curl will pull it out where it starts to splash in a weird way.
Yeah, this is lots of people are really enjoying this wave coming together. It's beautiful.
Too. Got a lot of personality. I'm taking the brush and like letting the edge of it be kind of irregular and watery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes, we can come in with a splash tool and really, you know, do that, but it's good just to be able to paint it too. A little bit over the top here. A little bit. How does the wave crash
Yeah.
on the shore of this beach? Pretty much how we say it cracks.
Beautiful wave coming in.
Well, thank you, babe.
Well, it just is.
A little more. You'll notice it's just not pure white though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're not trying to make something pure white. And we have a very uneven, crazy little crash that's coming in. Now here at the top, we've got to give the wave a little bit of light. So I'm going to take some green and some of my ultramarine blue and some white. And if I need to get a little yellow into it, it won't be super bright, but some glow will go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got to figure out how to talk about, you know, the way that the wave, I might even get some of the orange. I want to sometimes highlight the water.
Mm.
Not everywhere by any means, just a little bit. And shadow it back up.
Oh, wow. That's
Brush
starting
that
to
back
look.
in. So we've got the highlight at the crest where maybe a little light's hitting it, but we don't want it to not have the depth of shadow it needs to look like what it is.
Wow.
Just a little bit of glow there is
It's got
required.
a lot of glow.
Well, yeah, just that nice little bit, and we can come in and maybe get a little of the orange going and maybe a little bit on the center there. A little sunlight. Never hurt a little sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
A little white. I might put out some fresh white so it's flowing for me a little bit better. And, you know, what I'm trying to do is make sure that it feels like a little sunlight's catching the top of my froth.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a bit of a lighting to it in and of itself. A little bit, a splash.
Mm-hmm.
You can always come back if you've got to like bring anything back. You can always come back with a little bit of green and shade back into the curl. Now we're done. You need to shade back into the curl.
Mm-hmm.
Always shade back into the curl. All right, let's call this a step, and then we'll come forward and pull our beach and our wave together with Seafoam. How do you guys like that? Apples, those apples, some apples, any apples. Maybe a few apples. What about the apple place we ate at? I don't know. I don't know. Bad apples. That's right. The bad apples. The fancy apple place. Cheryl says, happy birthday. Here's, I hope your days goes as you plan. Thank you for you do. I love watching the tutorials. Always informative and entertaining. And Anna DaCosta says, wow, the painting looks so awesome. I'm so glad you guys like it. I think it's a really pretty painting. I think it's really nice. It's really nice. And I think I'm taking my birthday off, so I think it'll go, well, pretty good because I'll be off. Now let's continue some of this wonderful. I'm going to get into my sharper little number 4 round just to have a little more control. And I do like my dot purple and my phthalo green blue together for this ocean, just because it's such a nice way to get to the seafoam. And let's make sure that our wave has some seafoam coming down. I'm just adding the little seafoam and coming down. If it's a little choppy up front, that's okay. I'll get that chop going. Maybe kind of wiggle out some little ripples in the water. Pulling the little seafoam, the beginning of that down. If I lose too much of my shadow, it's super easy to come and put it back.
And thank you, Rose, for the wonderful happy birthday wish.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. Like as you can see, if I lose my shadow, I can just come add it back. Just playing the directionality. Maybe a little more white into that to get a little control over it. Pulling that up there. Keeping it playful. And it's okay to keep it playful.
And thank you, Karen, for the wishes as well.
Thank you. A little chop here. Think about our little chop. So we just get that first little run of foam coming back in and our crazy little splash. You can come back, remember, with your orange, because some of this is reflecting that sunlight behind it. Okay to put that in the water.
Yep.
You know, where you think it might be. Little kisses of that to help it feel like it's there. And I'm going to make a light color. It's not pure white, but it's a lot lighter. I'm going to start to pull the water in a few places. Where it hits the shore, I like to tap it and make it more foamy. Around the rock. Just starting to think about the line. This stage. The way the water is pulled against different elements. I'm just starting to think about it. And I'll have like one bit of white left that I can do that's pure white for the big pop. And that's really the trick there. All right, see how we're flowing around the rock now? Pulling these different elements of the beach. Getting up pure white because we want that left, but we're starting to see the structure, the lacing of the seafoam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lacing is what makes it work. Yeah, this is a little more in action. But this is a reference, lets us paint that moment of the wave pulling back, maybe, in a way that is unique, a way we wouldn't have seen it before. Maria says, oh my, it's coming out beautiful. I can't wait to paint it. I can't wait for you to paint it and can't wait to see yours.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Teresa sent birthday wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank
So many birthday wishes out here.
For every
so
birthday
many.
wish and every birthday thought, guys.
Sylvia,
thank you so much.
singing a song.
I really appreciate it. You guys have no idea. It's so thoughtful. You guys are so sweet. Again, not perfectly white, because we want to leave that room. I'll leave the room for the perfectly white. Frothy little foam. Look at that. I haven't even done the finishing touch yet.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? When it starts to work, it just works.
It does. Just comes together.
Get the project. It takes some work. But it's doable, right? Like, I think sometimes what happens is, like, one sees a painting and you see time lapse of it and you just think that's gorgeous and all, but is it doable? It's all doable. It's just hours, right? Like, sometimes a painting is 100 hours from done, and sometimes a painting is 6 hours or 12 hours from done. But just try to think of them as all doable, and you just don't know how, like, every hike is doable. You just don't know how long the hike is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. Every painting is doable. We just don't always know how long the painting is going to take. Because there's no speed in painting, and we all have our own personal kind of thing. You notice how I just wiggle this brush and kind of create these little lacing effects, and taking highlights, making motion. It's a thing. Yeah. Dogs purple and phthalo green. You're going to get us to that seafoam blue. You got to find that middle spot between the purple and the green to get there. Super worth it, though. And we're just pulling that foam up to that rock. We take the time and we get to the destination. That's what we do. We find our way through. We know what we have in us. That's what we do. And you can do it. You really can. They can do it, can't they, John?
Yeah. That's why we do this.
Because we know you can. With the help, we know you can.
Oh, this is so pretty.
All right, we'll call that step, and then we'll come back with the fluid paint and do the little lacy details that make it pop, pop, pop.
Yeah?
Yep. And they'll make the thumbnail be like, she didn't really paint that. And I'm going to be like, yes, we did, together.
Mm-hmm.
What a fun ocean. Everyone needs a fun ocean. I need a fun ocean vacation. Do you need a fun ocean vacation? I need a fun ocean vacation. How are you guys doing? So we're nearly done. This last little bit, if you watch nothing else on the video, stay for this last little bit. because a lot of times what happens when we're painting seafoam, when we're doing this kind of stuff, we forget this last little bit, and it's the one that makes it pop. It is the highlight and the shadow that will make the foam feel so 3D. So stay in for this because this is the technique. I probably should pull this out and just make this its own technique video. I could do that. That would be a sensible thing to do. There's my monogram liner. So this is a #1 monogram liner. Just a fine little detail brush. And there's two things we're going to do. First thing, I'm going to take something called fluid acrylic paint. This is golden titanium white fluid. This is the same consistency as craft paint. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some really white highlight. And then I'm going to finish it off where there needs to be some shadows to pop the shape of the foam. I could do it either. Maybe I'll go shadow first, right, with the black, and then come in with the white so you can really see it like almost develop. But here's the thing. You really need to make sure that with Seafoam, you give yourself a chance to have the shadow. Shadow will pull it out. Whether it's the roll of the wave. All right, you see how that's going? The shadow helps it pull out, especially here at the wave's edge.
Ooh, my chair is noisy today.
Chair is noisy today, but that is okay.
Squeak.
Every bit of Seafoam is shaded. But I would say that's one of the things that throws people off in beach paintings is that the foam is as three-dimensional as it actually is. So just a little bit of the shading can really help it. Especially on areas where it's open. Now, in my eye, hopefully you guys can see this on camera about the big difference it makes. Where you're trying to say that there's some pulled open seafoam. And we talked about this a little bit, the shadows in the seafoam on that big beach we did that was so successful. You guys had such great results. That's what it was. Taking the time for both. Because when I come through and add the white highlights, then the shadow against it will just really make it totally work. Okay. That looks pretty good. You want to just, I think I need a little bit over here maybe. Don't be thick or heavy-handed with those lines. They need to be light. They're there. They're visible, but they shouldn't be your whole painting. I'm going to come to the edge of my wave. A lot of times, splatter technique is amazing. I love it. I love it. Use it. Sometimes just a little detailing is all your wave needed. Look at that. Finish the painting.
Oh.
Yeah, just finish it. When you finish it, that's when it's, gosh, it's on my wall and it looks so good.
I love when they go on the wall. They cheer the room up.
They do. Change the view. I mean, I can't afford this beach view. Maybe you're blessed and you can. By the way, there's nothing wrong with being blessed and being able to afford the beach view. Maybe you're blessed and you can't. But I am not. I love my view, but I don't have this view.
Sometimes you're just fortunate enough to be close to one of these views.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But I got to paint mine.
Yep.
That's how I get there. Tapping it out where I want it to be super splashy, I can tap it out. And I do let some of those splashes get up above the wave. Doesn't the wave now have like a... Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to do the work.
Super nice.
These little finishing touches are everything, guys. This is what you want. You need to see this. You need to. Also, it's just important for you as an artist to know, like, be sure and hit the subscribe button. You unsubscribe because I put up a bunch of notifications. At least you know I won't be doing it till September. But, like, hit the subscribe button. Know when I'm live. Sign up for the live text notification. We're going to have the international one up as soon as we can. Gosh, you guys know we've been working on it for a minute. And come in and let's start over here from the left on. That's the little details. I love the edge of Seafoam stuff, anything, because it just this just really pops together. That last little bit of white.
Wow. That water lace just looks so awesome.
Yeah, just a little bit of lacing from the sea, like a mermaid tail. A little magic moment on the shore. We can paint how the ocean feels. We can paint more than how it looks. We can paint how it feels. We can paint how it sounds. You can hear a painting sometimes. I just want to put that little detailing in. Coming along doing the work. You can see where reserving that white to the end makes all the difference. All the moment, all the difference, all the You guys have got this. You can do it. You're amazing. It is in you. Just breathe. Just slow down. Hit pause on me if you need to. Rewind. Rewatch. You are smart. You will totally get it. I say that because I say some crazy stuff to myself when I'm not getting something. So I'd assume some of you guys might be doing that too. So I want to say the encouraging things I wish someone would say to me while I was struggling with something,
Yeah.
Make sure that, we're here for you where you're at. I look at the holes and I see the holes. And now you see what I mean about that line. Those two lines, not just the highlight, it's the shadow. Not just the white, it values the white so that when you do put in a pure pigment, it is a huge, big deal. Because it is. And honestly, I could do on my own, just sitting here messing around. Oh, 2 hours of this. I could just be like all through. I just go all day. John will tell you. I mean,
Yep.
we've got to have an on and off, of, like a beginning and an end to our show. But just because I come to the end of this lesson doesn't mean that you have to come to the end of your Seafoam.
Yeah, and what's one of the things is that someday we may let Cinnamon just go on one of these. Where someday it's like, all right, well, because you also keep in mind, like, she's done all this in one sitting. So if she were to get up and wander around and then come back to this tomorrow and do another 3 hours on it, and then maybe come back
fast.
a couple days later and do another 3 hours, I'm like, I don't think we've ever seen you put 12. Like,
no,
I don't
only in the Red Queen, and she has gone on too long.
Yeah.
She'll be, the problem with the Red Queen is that she's going to be a 40-hour painting.
But
she's going to be awesome when she's done.
I think we need to take those and time lapse that.
Yeah, definitely. Never real time again. That's a misery forever.
Well, it's more of scheduling. It's just
so hard to find the time for her.
Well, what it is it's hard to schedule it out ahead of time when we know we're gonna have that big block of time free. But we could just stumble upon that time of free block because it's like, oh, look, whatever we planned on doing today got canceled, so we should record that right now.
Yeah, so true.
So we may end up having to do some of that because it's just such a big painting.
Yeah, it's just such a big painting. But it's true, like when you come in and you come back and you do more time, and if you do this in sessions and you give yourself a minute, then you end up with a really gorgeous ocean painting. Look at that, guys.
Now, if you're interested in those patron paintings, you go to theartsherpa.com/patron.
We do other shorter ones.
And find out information about our patronage where you can support.
Queen is not the only thing that we put you guys through. We have other options.
We have other things. But we appreciate you guys. We really do.
Look at that. We did it. What a painting to take on.
Wow,
right?
that's so come together. That's amazing. I love all the water, the sparkliness.
I love how it looks like molten water rushing in.
Lava water.
Lava water. And that cloud in the cloud. It's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun things about this piece. I'm going to come in. I think I'm going to take a little of my black and blue and add some white to it and get kind of a very dark color, but I want it to show. So the thing about signatures is they have to be there and you got to see them, but I don't ever like it when they mess with the whole painting.
Subtle signatures.
For me.
Ooh.
A lot of times artists have a lot of egos, so they don't do subtle signatures, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
That is okay too. But me, I kind of get into this space where I'm like, man, I worked really hard on this, and I really don't want my signature to like take away you need to be able to come here and kind of read that and be like, oh, I know who made it, but I don't want it to be like, this is what the painting is about. Come enjoy my ego. And I have no feelings on this issue at all. But just for me, that's not a good fit for me. I feel awkward in that space. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We did it, guys. This was a big project, and we did it. Next painting is an adorable. It will be at Hoot. Just a fun little dog nose of a very shaggy little white dog. Perfect for big art quest. If you have a Cavapoo like I do or a poodle mix, all the different little poodle mixes of long hair, this is going to be great for that. And this is kind of my Twix. This is my Twix when she's allowed to have her hair grown out. Sometimes we have to shave her because she gets knotted. But when she gets her hair grown out, this is how she looks. They'll be her next week, and I think it's going to be a really cute one. And it's got pretty little purple, pinky, what are they? Poppies or daisies or something. They're really cool little flowers. Tell me what kind of flower they are, because it didn't list it on the photograph. And I was like, these are really pretty, and they're a wildflower, and they're really gorgeous. The puppies in there. Anyway, if you'd like to do that, I would love to have you. Love to invite you. Remember to check the event for July in the Poconos. There's only one ticket for the full retreat, but we're having a meetup after on Sunday, and it's listed in the itinerary. You don't have to sign up or anything. We're just going to, just show up and work. I think we're going to do ATCs. We'll do pictures and ATCs, I think.
That's
see if
good.
we
That's going to
regret
be a
that later.
lot of fun.
Huh?
I look forward to the event.
I do.
The get
The
together.
last one was so great. I'm looking forward to this one so much. So hope to see you there. If you want to come paint with me for a ridiculous amount of time for a couple of days, there's a little spot to sign up left. And if you want to just come hang out and meet me for free, that is on Sunday. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.